Welcome back to the show. In today's episode, I speak with Andrea Barello. He's here in town for the Melbourne International Comedy Festival, performing his one-man show tonight, A Clown Who Wanted to Be Loved. He's running until the 20th of April, and I'll put a link down in the description so you can get tickets to his show. With Andrea, we talk about clowning as an art form, improv comedy, and the importance of staying playful. I hope you enjoy the chat. Your press release says that you finally figured out what you wanted, and that's to be loved. When did you realize that?
I guess it happened in these last few years, in the recent years, where I always wanted to be loved, and I guess everybody does. But maybe in these last years, I realized that's it. That's the thing. That's of course, I also want to follow projects, dreams, and other things. But being loved, and I'm not talking only about romantic love. It's love in general. Connection with other people is what really ultimately matters for me in this life.
Was it through performing that you realized that? Because I guess, a lot of us realize that pursuing any type of art is at the same time a pursuit for acceptance, right? You want the world at large to kind of accept you and to use your words, love you. Did it have any connection to your career as a performer?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. It's true what you say, that when we perform, we look for validation, for acceptance, and ultimately we want the audience to love us. So that is definitely true. And I think also in the kind of performance I do, which is clowning, comedy based on clowning, is a type of performance that involves being very open, very vulnerable, really showing your true self to the audience. And so I think that when I experienced that in the beginning of my experience with clowning, I realized that was really powerful, and that was really what I wanted to pursue.
I read that when you discovered clowning, you felt at home. And is that kind of what it was? That sort of, I don't know, element of truth or whatever, like real you, if that exists?
Mm-hmm. I realized that's what I want. That this feeling of being authentic, and of being vulnerable, of not being afraid of showing our weaknesses in front of people. That's I think very powerful, very rewarding, and it brings the connection with the people to another level.
Do you think there's any value? Like, I really don't know. I'm curious, and I really find it interesting how different artists have different ideas about this. Because on the one hand, you're right. I think a lot of people have this need for acceptance. But is that need something to just accept and embrace? Or at the same time, do you kind of have to get over it to make good art?
I don't know if you need to get over it. Maybe that shouldn't be the only drive, the only engine behind it, behind making art. Because if it's just like me, it becomes something that can be very selfish in a way. I think to me, for what I do, there is also a big component of bringing laughter and bringing happiness to some extent to the audience that is a big part of it. So to me, having somebody after the show telling me that they love the show, that they made them feel as if they were kids again, and that it really made them laugh and feel good. That's yeah, for me that's the best reward. And yeah, to me it's this exchange. Yeah, I want to be happy doing what I'm doing, but I want people watching me enjoy it, and I want to create this exchange, this connection that feels very very strong in that moment.
I always associate clowning with Europe. I feel like obviously it has a very strong history in Europe. I feel like it's not quite the same in Australia and the US. What do you think people on this side of the world should understand about clowning as an art form?
I think what I see often in modern clowning and yeah, I see that in the US, and also with some clowns here, but maybe more in the US, especially in Los Angeles, where I'm based. Tendency to always try to be provocative, to break the rules, to be a mean clown.
Mean?
Sort of, not necessarily mean. Maybe mean is not the right word, but be a little aggressive, trying to always provoke the audience, and which can be fun. But I think clown should also be something like I was saying before, something that has to do with being vulnerable and with embracing, celebrating your weaknesses. So showing yourself naked, not literally, not taking your clothes off, which can be a provocation, but it's also sometimes it can feel unnecessary. But more, showing your true self and not being afraid of that. That in my opinion is the most interesting aspect of clowning. And I want to add, we talk about Europe, we talk about here in the US. I just want to quickly add that clowning is also very strong in, for example, in Central America, in Latin America. I know some amazing clowns who do great work, humanitarian clown in Mexico. I've been taking classes from this wonderful Brazilian clown from near São Paulo, and so yeah, clown is everywhere.
So you would say that clowning should be about, I guess, pointing inward, whereas a lot of the stuff you see in LA is more about a kind of vibrato, pointing outward. And in a way, it kind of seems like the opposite of what you're trying to do, right? You're trying to, be vulnerable, but instead they're going on the attack. And that kind of seems to miss the point of the art form, right?
Yeah. It can be. It sometimes. That's how I feel about it. In some cases, there is a reason. There is a message. Let's say there is the provocation is functional to the what the message that the performer wants to bring is, or to the comedy, to the comedic effect, and then it's interesting, and I like it. Sometimes it feels like it's just thrown out there just to be boom. I wanna surprise you with something big, but that then doesn't have any layers behind.
I had no idea there were edgy clowns.
Absolutely.
I have to check this out now. The clowns in Latin America, are they different again, or are they more of the mold of the ones in Europe?
They are, well, it's also they can be very different there. I heard, I don't know them very well, but I heard that Argentinian clowns can be also a little edgy, let's say, as you said. this clown who I know from Brazil, he's very he doesn't speak. He's a non-verbal clown like me most of the time. But he also plays a lot with the audience. I saw him stealing a toy from a child in the audience, which was like, "Wow, what are you doing?" But then he did it in such a funny and that the kid was on board. They started a play. The kid started running after him to get the toy back, and so it was actually beautiful and funny and stupid.
And even in your show, the audience is involved. How risky is that? And has that ever gone wrong?
It is it is risky because I put a lot into their hands, and maybe they don't always realize that. But I play a lot with the audience. I bring audience members on stage with me, and the show in the end can be very different depending on how that person reacts. And it's still my responsibility. It's my show, and I take that risk. And sometimes people are very playful and they have fun, and we have fun together, and then it works beautifully because then the audiences have fun. But sometimes I had difficult moments because I found somebody who they would come up, but then they didn't really want to play. They rejected the offers, and then it can be very tricky because then the audience sees what's going on. They see that you are struggling, and then the whole thing becomes awkward.
So how do you go about choosing which audience members to get involved? Are you just going by vibes, like who looks like they would be open to it?
Basically, yes. I try to get the vibe and try to realize if that person seems to be playful. I've seen them laughing before. They seem to be they don't seem too eager to come on stage, but not too shy either. Something in between is ideal for me.
That's interesting because it makes a lot of sense that you want to avoid people who just look completely uncomfortable, right? But I guess you're saying you also want to avoid people who look too keen and want to maybe take over the show and be the center of attention.
Yes, that can be it can be fun for the audience because then, but then it can become difficult to control. The best situation, as I think Avner the eccentric, who's a great American clown, said, when you bring somebody on stage, you want everyone else in the audience to feel like, I wish he picked me.
Interesting.
You want to show how you are having fun on stage with that person, and even if maybe you play with them and in some moments you make fun of them, but it must be in a gentle and funny way, then that's where it really adds something to the show for me.
So a part of it, I would imagine, would be about not putting too much pressure on them to be funny, right? Because that would probably be the part that's scary for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
What's expected of me? So what's an example of something you would do with an audience member without giving away your act?
I don't want them to be funny at all. Then if they are, that's great. Also, sometimes we are funny and we don't know why, and that's another element of clown, that sometimes people laugh and we don't know why they're laughing, and that is pure clown. That's, as somebody said, your clown is what your best friend laugh about you when you are not there.
Sounds terrifying.
It is.
And hurtful.
It is, because like I said before, clowning is celebrating your weaknesses, and we are scared of it because usually we try to hide our weaknesses. We want people to see us as stronger and clever, and instead the clown is weak and dumb, and doesn't try to hide it. But your question. what I ask them to do. Well, I have a boxing bit that I bring somebody on stage, and then we have this boxing moment together, and then I usually I win the match, but not always. It depends.
The word sadomasochistic has just come to my mind. Is there an element of sadomasochism in clowning? Because it sounds like a huge part of it is, just kind of maybe humiliating yourself isn't the right word, but bearing your soul and highlighting your own flaws to random strangers. There's got to be some pain in that.
I'm not sure about that. I mean, initially, definitely there is pain when you start doing it, because it's a lot. Yeah, it's very intense, and even if you are in a class with other students and you show that, it's hard. Yes. As you do it more, you get more used to it, and I think it allows really to create this deeper connection with the audience. You know, where if I'm just playing a sketch, doing some silly gags, but I don't create this deeper connection with the audience, it's pretty futile to me. When I see a show like that, I lose interest very quickly, because I'm not that interested in the funny gags. I'm more interested in the person who is up there. So if we create this connection, then I will laugh at your stupid gags. I will laugh at the dumbest ideas that you come up with. But if we don't have that connection, if I don't care for you, then it all becomes pretty pointless.
And so establishing that connection, you would say, just comes from being open from the beginning about your own insecurities and whatever. Yeah,
being open about your insecurities and also your playfulness. To me, is also showing we are here to play together, and it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be great.
What led you to move to the US? Because you've been in LA for how long?
I've been in LA for a couple of years, but in the US for 10 years. More than
okay.
10
Where
years.
were you before that?
I was in San Francisco.
Okay, very cool. And so was it performing that caused you to move, or that would just happened while you were there?
Performing happened while I was there.
Okay, so you started doing improv in San Francisco, right?
That's correct. Yes.
What lessons did improv teach you? I'm really interested in improv because it's something I've never been brave enough to do. So, what did it teach you?
It was some aspects were similar to that I learned in improv are similar to the clown, like an element of authenticity and of playing a character, playing gags, or in improv it was much more text based, so there was also more in your brain in coming up with funny things in the moment. But it was also, again, being authentic and being not just trying to be joke, but more trying to make people interested in you by being interested in what's happening. A great improv teacher I had, David Razowski, I remember he's saying, you have to be interested in what's going on, because if you are not interested, how can you expect the audience to be interested in what you are doing?
Right.
And another great lesson, or maybe that was the first one that I got from improv, was I can do it. I'm doing it. I had no idea. I'm in my, when I started doing it, I was in my late 40s, and I had no idea I could be on a stage in front of an audience and making them laugh.
Do you think anyone can do it?
Yes, I think anyone can do it if they want to. I mean, I think I'm the living example. Like Italian middle-aged man in the U.S. speaking a language who is not my first language, and I decided just to, okay, I'm gonna do it, and I did it. I think if I could do it, anybody can do it.
That was actually going to be my next question, because the idea of doing improv in my native language is terrifying, but you did it in your second language. I mean, how?
I think again, yeah. First of all, yeah, I just wanted to do it, and I loved it from day one, and that's what I was terrified. Like for months, the first months, I was every time I went to the school, to the class, I was terrified. I started feeling, this feeling in your stomach.
Because of the language or because of just being on stage?
No, yeah, just being on stage, just the whole thing. But the language, in the end, it turned out to be sometimes at least an advantage because I would speak with this funny accent, or that some people would find funny. Sometimes there would be misunderstandings due to the language that created comedic moments. For a long time, I performed. I had a duo, an improv duo, and my partner is this lady from Turkey, and so we were both non-first language English speakers, and so we had misunderstandings and butchering English the whole time, and that made us even more hilarious for the audience because we were just weird. So the language in the end was not a barrier. I thought it would be. Then I remember many times people telling me, I really like your timing, how you pause, you take your time, you are really patient. And I was thinking, I'm not patient. I'm just trying to figure out, finding the words, understanding what you said. So it turned out people read it in a different way.
I know how that feels. We actually had a staff meeting yesterday, completely in Italian. And I didn't even mean to make people laugh, but I said something wrong, and all these Italians start laughing at me. So I get it, man. It's,
Yeah, that's exactly, what it is.
Do you think that English and Italian give people access to different things? Because I kind of believe that different languages give you things and take things away, right? And have you found that at all? That maybe English has awakened things in your personality or your worldview that weren't there in Italian, and vice versa?
For sure. I think that's true, yes. To me personally, what I could notice more is that in English, I speak English decently, but it's still not. I'm not bilingual. It's not my.
You're bilingual,
my language.
But this is still bilingual. This is absolutely bilingual.
I'm close to it, but
this is definitely bilingual. We've been speaking in English this whole time. But I don't think bilingual has to mean that your second language is as good as a native speaker.
Right.
You know?
Right. Yeah. No, I think that in my native language, I can play with the language, which is a thing that I like to do a lot in Italian, in a way that I will never be able to do in English, like making puns or, you just say a sentence and you put a word in there that is just slightly off. It's
Right.
not completely wrong, and you do it intentionally, and then see the reaction of the people who say, "Wait, why did you use that strange word in that context?" That I cannot do that in English because I don't have the command, and also because when I try to do it, people just think that I made a mistake,
Right.
because it's not my language.
Be like, dude, I was trying to make a joke.
That's right.
But I've heard that Italians don't do puns as much. They're not as big a fan of the pun. Is that not true?
Maybe it's not technically puns.
I've heard questi scherzi inglesi, so they associate it more with a kind of, with English speakers.
With a kind of, humor. Yeah, maybe that's true. I'm not sure. I personally always love doing it, but I also grew up watching Mel Brooks movies and then Monty Python comedy. So a very in case of Monty Python, a very British humor. And also Mel Brooks had tons of language-based jokes in his movies that got brilliantly translated in the dubbed versions, by the way.
Oh, really? Or no?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. That was amazing because back then all we would see in the on TV, but also in the movie theaters, was all dubbed in Italian, and so including things like Mel Brooks, and that had a lot of jokes that were pretty much impossible to translate, but the dubbing teams did a great work, really adapting, changing the dialogues, and inventing brand new jokes.
So they essentially became rewriters of the movie.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. In some cases, yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of fascinating. Okay, I'll tell you where I'm at right now with this theory, and if you disagree, that's fine. We'll just cut this out. But because look, my Italian's not great, but what I think is that Italian is a better language for, I think, things that are more ethereal. So emotions, describing things like love and heartbreak. And the only reason I say that is because if I hear a story or something in Italian, sometimes it makes me feel like, oh, wow, it's such a perfect way of putting it. It just captures those things in such a perfect way. Whereas I feel like English is really good at accurately describing the world. But that could also just be because I'm a native speaker and so I'm biased. But that seems to be the difference to me. Does that make any sense to you?
Yeah. It's especially when you say that English is very efficient, or I don't know the word you used, but I think that's very true. English is a very efficient, very functional language. It allows to say things with few words. Very often you can, to say the same thing in Italian, you have to use many more words or many more convoluted forms, whereas English is tuck. Yeah, I definitely agree on that.
All right, so then maybe I'll consider leaving that part in. I want to come back to the theme of your show. So how much of your own quest for love is actually in there? How many of those experiences or lessons or whatever make their way into the show?
The show is definitely inspired by my experience and my heartbreaks and my quest for love. Definitely the story that develops in the show is not exactly that, but it's and it's ultimately it's an excuse to play and have fun with the audience in this my silly way of making gags without really talking. But yeah, I want to say there is a lot of me and a lot of my real life in the show. But then that was not. For me, the main purpose was to do a clown show and to do something where we are gonna laugh together and where I'm having fun doing this thing on stage and the audiences are having fun.
So you've been in the US for a decade, you said. Have you had any insights into the American sense of humor, or even coming here, being here for a month? What observations have you made about the way people's sense of humor in the English-speaking world may differ, if at all, from those in Italy?
Yeah, that's always a good question that I've been asked this question before, and I never have a clear answer in my head. I think maybe in Italy there is a humor that that can be, not always, but that can be more physical, more coming from this tradition of commedia dell'arte. So big characters, very physical, big, big movements, big physicalities that are part of the really of the comedic effect. Whereas in the English-speaking world, or for sure in the US, it's more based on the words. It's more based. That was definitely true in improv, because I realized how improv in the US was very much text-based and based on wit and on being quick, thinking on your feet, and coming up with really funny things to say. Whereas then I discovered improv in Europe only later on, and I realized, there is many other nuances here, and there is more, again, physicality, and there is sometimes scenes completely without words, and so I found that very interesting.
You mentioned it earlier, and we didn't really explore that, but you're a part of Clowns Without Borders. Can you tell me a little bit about that organization?
Yeah, I've collaborated with them and with an organization in Mexico called Javenu, and the work they do is a beautiful work, in my opinion, and it's bringing clowns to places where people don't have many reasons to laugh. Let's put it this way. And that goes from sometimes places affected by wars, places affected by natural events, earthquakes, or whatever. People in situations of forced mobility, so migrants. That's what I mostly experienced when I worked with them in Mexico. We worked in shelters for migrants. We worked in centers for little kids. Basically, in general, it's for vulnerable populations who were having all of a sudden this moment of silliness and play and having fun can be very meaningful. In my experience, I did this tour with them, and we had a show that was pretty much targeted to children. We had some very silly characters, some clowns doing more circus things, others doing more just plain clown, red-nosed clown. What I noticed was one of the first shows we did. We went to one of these centers that give shelter to migrants that are on their way from South America trying to get into the U.S. And the people there were all grown-ups. There were no kids, and they were mostly men, mostly young men in their 20s, 30s. And I kind of froze. I thought they are gonna hate this. They're gonna they are here struggling. They probably went through terrible experiences to get here, and now they see us four idiots doing our silly thing. And they loved us, and they loved the show. They had a blast. They were laughing so hard. They jumped in, playing with us. And after the show, they wanted to talk and tell us their stories. And I realized how important can be something apparently so silly. One could think, these people they don't need clowns here. They need food. They need jobs. They need shelter. But we need to nourish the soul too. That's very important, and bring in a moment of happiness and a break from all the ugliness that they've been experiencing is actually very important. And I realized that I had this idea as a very theoretical idea, but then in that moment I realized this is true. This is actually a very valuable thing.
You've used the word play many times throughout our conversation, and I guess my question is, how much do we kind of ignore the need to be playful as adults in life, and why shouldn't we?
Yeah, I think we ignore it a lot.
Or why do we, do you think?
Why?
Why do we ignore playfulness?
I guess because with it's a shield, it's a protection. We don't want to be expose ourselves being silly, being playful. We are taught that we need to be serious. We need to don't make a fool of yourself. Why not? But that's a rule pretty much everywhere. You have to be serious. You have to be follow the rules and become a proper citizen and be respected and like I said before, don't show your weaknesses. Don't show. Being playful is none of that. Being playful is like let's play, let's have fun. And there is no competition. There is no the competition is also a big part of it. We live in a society that is very competitive, where it's always about being better than others. And when we play, we don't want that. We just want to have fun. Or if there is a competition, it should be a stupid one. Like last year, I was in Edinburgh. A clown I know there from Poland organized this clown Olympics. So we gathered all the clowns who were performing in Edinburgh, gathered in this park, and we had these clown Olympics that were all completely stupid, impossible things that we had to do, like doing synchronized swimming in the park.
Okay. Did you get a medal?
It was very funny. No, we were eliminated, me and Mattia, my other Italian, because we went representing our country. So we were the Italian team.
Must have been a very proud moment.
Absolutely, yes.
We've been speaking with Andrea Barello, who's here for his show tonight, A Clown Who Wanted to Be Loved. You can see him at the Melbourne International Comedy Festival. Andrea, thank you so much for this conversation. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.